probably the best rally in the whole international calendar. But in 1973, it very nearly never happened at all. Because of the petrol famine, which at the time made driving almost an antisocial activity, the RAC was under a good deal of unofficial pressure to call the whole thing off. But the government never said no, and that's what counted. So, in the middle of November, 200 cars and their crews gathered in the old cathedral city of York and took over every available spot to get ready for what turned out to be just about the best and most closely fought RAC rally anyone could remember. All the way from Japan came the Toyota team, and their garage, looking more like a motoring supermarket than anything else, was typical. It needed careful checking to sort everything out. Some things needed explaining, but shock absorbers made sense on this rally. It seemed the mechanics were going to live on tin pilchards brought with them. Newer to rallying than their Japanese rivals at Datsun, who were also there in force, Toyota had entered 2 cars for their second go at the RAC. Both were Celicas entered in Class 5, with their 1600cc engines giving about 140 brake horsepower. The Swedish pair, Leif Asterhag and Anders Gullberg, were to share number 23. Already in his car and talking to Asterhag, Toyota's 36-year-old Swedish star Ove Andersson, winner of the Monte Carlo rally in 1971. He was driving with Welsh journalist Geraint Phillips as his navigator. York Racecourse, Friday morning, scrutineering, and the rivals all meet up for the first time. As well as the Toyotas and Datsuns from Japan, there were Saabs and Volvos from Sweden, Alpine Renaults from France, BMWs and Opels from Germany, Fiats and a lone Lancia from Italy, and many more. All, incidentally, a lot of badly needed foreign currency. And it's the Dunlop mechanics who always seem to have to fit tyres to all of them. But everyone's rivals are the Works Ford Escorts, last year's winners. Hannu Mikkola from Finland would be hard to beat this time in his RS 1600, though Roger Clark, who'd won last year, would be on his shirt tails all the way. Fellow Finn Timo Mäkinen, sponsored by the Milk Marketing Board, would also be looking for an outright win, having tried nearly a dozen times before. Toyota hardly hoped to win outright, but Jerry Phillips and Ove Andersson could take their class if all went well, and so could Asterhag and Gullberg in number 23. One thing about Japanese mechanics, they talk in code and keep their secrets. A veteran of several other rallies, the Anderson-Phillips Celica had been rebuilt several times in Sweden, but number 23 was fresh from the factory in Japan. Both cars were now all ready for scrutineering, a straight through and away process everyone thought. But is it ever in any rally? Roger Clark wasn't having trouble. And at first the Toyotas were all right too, and Andersson was happy as his engine was sealed with dabs of paint made to a secret formula by the boffins at Farnborough and confidently claimed to be 100% fool and fiddle-proof. But soon an argument brewed up between the scrutineers and Brian Turvey, Toyota's British service manager. Subject, fireproof bulkheads between the boot and the rest of the body.
There should be a liquid and fireproof bulkhead, are you with me, between the tank and the inside of the car.
It ought to stop if the tank catches fire.
Splits, petrol or fire doesn't get into the car.
What sort of
Oh, it was a bit of sheet aluminium.
Sheet aluminium.
That's all it was. All you want is that trim taking out. A sheet of aluminium.
Wouldn't accept polystyrene.
What particular grade of polystyrene had you in mind? Certainly not. No, not polystyrene. Not the campus is worse than what you got in. At least that will prevent it a bit of polystyrene. It's so simple, really. Yeah, asbestos. Right. Asbestos. If you can just lift that and put a sheet of asbestos on, so that the...
Whereabouts do you want this asbestos?
Well, look, underneath here, look.
You've got all these holes all the way along.
Then you want it accepted here? Yeah.
That should really...
I've explained what's it isn't a big job.
You're not alone. You're not alone in this.
Oh, I know.
Saab had the same trouble too, and in the end it took telephone calls to the CSI in Paris to settle what seemed to be yet another communications breakdown over the regs. But finally everyone apologized and drove away happy for an early night before the start next day.
Right.
Saturday morning, 9 o'clock, and as the bells of York Minster chime out, the cars are ready for the long drive ahead. 4.5 days, 2 nights, and 2,000 miles to go. First on the ramp at the racecourse, seeded number 1, the Ford Escort of last year's winner Roger Clark with navigator Tony Mason. But this year, Clark had an unexpected handicap, a bad cold, to plague him as he drove away. A minute behind Clark is Sweden's Stig Blomqvist, RAC winner in 1971 and still Saab's strongest challenger. Harry Schalström leads the Datsun attack in a 240Z. Their other cars belong to Tony Fall and Mike Wood and Chris Slater with Martin Holmes. 9 minutes after Roger Clark's departure, it's time for Ove Andersson's Toyota to climb the ramp, while Jack Kemsley, for years the rally's chief organizer, has a word on the PA with Jerry Phillips.
I wanted to say there's another Englishman come on the ramp, but of course I don't do that. My old mate from Wales would be most upset. He'd probably swallow his pie. How you going, Jerry?
Fine, thank you very much.
And I hope that Ove's all ready to do his stuff.
Yes, we both had a very good breakfast of rice.
But despite that number, it's Timo Mäkinen and Henry Liddon in their Ford who seem the most confident of all. 70 special stages lie ahead, flat out over the Forestry Commission's rough stuff mainly, where the rally's lost and won. And on the way out of York to the first of them goes the Asterhag-Gullberg Toyota. As it happens, Bramham is on a private estate. First through the Blomqvist-Hertz Saab. Tidier, neater, and 3 seconds faster, Roger Clark, fastest of all on this stage. Harry Schalström, Datsun. Per Eklund Saab mowing the grass. And now Ove Andersson, who made 2 minutes 51 seconds compared to Clark's 2 minutes 35. Next, Andy Cowan and Johnston Sire in their Scottish-entered Escort. Asterhag and Gullberg in their Toyota did the stage the dramatic way, but still took only 1 second longer than Andersson. After Bramham, the field headed south down the A1 towards Sutton Park. There were 2 more stages on the way, and the first control and service stop at Leicester Forest East on the M1. Here, the Toyota competitions manager, Naniway, waited anxiously for his cars to appear as his mechanics got everything ready. Not much to do so early in the rally, except perhaps to change the tyres to racers for the speed test at Sutton Park. Jerry Phillips is quite confident.
Not necessary. I think on the first stage we were the only one of the first group of cars not to hit a gate post.
Good. Yes, it was a bit narrow, downhill, after the house.
Yes.
Mechanics will always find something under the bonnet to fuss over. Meanwhile, there's time for Anderson and Phillips to have a cuppa.
Yes. Yes. Only done 3 stages, so it's a bit soon yet.
What about tomorrow? What's tomorrow today?
Well, it'll start.
Further back up the road, Toyota number 23, the Asterhag Gullberg car, is still heading for Leicester Forest East. But even at this stage, the Fords are leading overall. Mäkinen leads Clark by just 2 seconds and is already setting a pattern. In third place, the young Finn Markku Alén, previously a Volvo driver, but now in a privately entered Escort. Blomqvist's Saab is fourth, and as usual, it's tyres in the right place at the right time, which are vitally important.
Hier, die anderen erst sauber machen, aus und innen. Das heißt, mit dem Schraubenzieher gerade in den Kopf direkt ausmachen.
With petrol en route uncertain, it's wise to carry your own. Although General Motors still don't go in for competitions officially, their Opels, privately entered in Sweden and Germany, are hard to beat. This is the Lars Carlson car. Time to press on, but motorway service areas you have to share with other vehicles, and sometimes they're bigger than you, as Roger Clark discovered. That's the BMW 2002 of Bjorn Voldegaard and Hans Thorselius, one of the hotter favourites. With the Toyota tanked up and reshod and the crew refreshed, Ove Anderson heads out onto the M1, bound for Sutton Park outside Sutton Coldfield and the next special stage. Simo Lampinen, RAC rally winner in 1968, is once again driving a Saab. On their way to Asterhag and Gullberg in the other Toyota. Even at this early stage, Voldegaard and Thorselius in the BMW were setting themselves up to worry the Fords. By now, the cars have to share the roads with the usual Saturday afternoon traffic, but the time schedule's easy and there's no need to hurry.